Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I am checking out the... What? The Ideafly F210 Grasshopper. For some reason, the name is backwards on this canopy here. And this thing looks a bit gimmicky, but I'll tell you now, it has got some pretty top-notch components if you take away the fact that they have tried to make it look like a grasshopper. So we've got eyes at the front here, we've got this canopy that looks like the back of it. And yeah, it's a bit gimmicky, we've got the mouth at the front there, but it has got some great components. I mean, check out the motors, for example. These are 2205 2300 kV motors. Now, you may recognize this style. They seem to be exactly the same as the Racer Star motors, and we know those perform really well. So we also have these ESCs here, and they are supposedly 30 amp ESCs, but they look a bit small to be 30 amp. So maybe they're 20 amp, but that's still good enough. And if we lift up this canopy here, we are actually given a 4-cell battery. This is an Ideafly battery, and it is 1300 milliamps, which is what we are used to flying with these sort of things, which is pretty nice. It's also sporting a SP Racing F3 board. Now, this is the one that's got a barometer, so you can do altitude hold with it, which seems a bit strange because we don't use altitude hold with racing quads, so I'll probably be turning that off. You are given a FlySky transmitter. It's the i6, but it is rebranded to Ideafly, and we also have the FlySky receiver in here. It is using PWM rather than PPM or the iBus that they use. And we have a camera up front. Now, it looks like a HS1177, but it's not. It's a 700 TV line CMOS camera that they have added a case to make it look like the HS1177. Now, one thing that is really cool about this is that it is really lightweight. With the battery, it weighs under 500 grams, which is the same weight as the P200 or the GB190. So actually, despite its gimmicky looks, this thing should be a complete powerhouse. In fact, they say that it will fly at 230 kilometers. I'm going to ignore that because with this spec, we know that that isn't true. But this spec does produce a lot of power and great results. So I'm looking forward to flying this. We have got some LEDs on the back there. I believe they are green when the quad is on the ground and blue when it is in the air. We have got a 200 milliwatt VTX at the back here that is 40 channels. However, they have covered up the channel selection button. It just sort of sticks out there and you can press it in. It's not too much of a problem, but I guess if you don't know that, then you might struggle to change the channel on this. But yeah, it's really neat. You know, we've got a power distribution board hidden underneath there, and I really like the way that this is constructed. This plate here at the top is a little bit thin, but it's really lightweight, and it houses the battery there. You're given this battery strap as well. So yeah, you know, this has got some great potential for some good flying. However, one thing that I don't like about it is that you can't really add an action cam to the top of it. I mean, I use the Foxeer Legend 1, and you can see there, I guess you could modify it, you know, put some holes in there and add some straps to it, but you'd be flying in that crazy angle. Or you could put some padding here and rest the camera like that. Maybe I could do that, but then I think this would shatter. In fact, I think in a crash this thing is really flimsy and I think it will shatter anyway. And I think the idea is that it's going to make it more aerodynamic, but I really don't think that it's going to do that. So I will probably be removing these two screws here. They are hex screws, and it will be much more durable in a crash. I guess as well you could kind of stick your camera on the top of the battery, but that would be a little bit fiddly, I guess. So we've got a XT60 connector at the back, and it does have a little rubber grommet there, so you're not going to pull any wires out, which is quite nice. It's a really nice build. It's just this thing at the front. I mean, this thing looks a little bit weak. I can physically move it with my fingers, and then the bit at the top is really strong, so it seems that there's a weakness there. I mean, I can see that breaking off in a hard crash. And the frame is all in one, so if you break an arm, you break the entire frame, but this is so solid. It's 3K carbon, and it is really strong, so I reckon it will be pretty durable. But yeah, I'm looking forward to flying this. We have the two diversity antennas at the front there to make it look like a Grasshopper's antennas, I guess. Another great thing about this package is you are given a sort of laptop bag for it. Well, it looks like a laptop bag anyway. But everything fits in there. The quad fits nicely in there, and the transmitter nicely in there. We are given some accessories, so here is the balance charger. Now, I think this is half the reason why they don't give 4-cell batteries with these ready-to-fly quads, because a lot of these cheap chargers don't support 4 cells, but this one does. So you have the option of LiPo or Life-E. You've got 1 amp, 2 amp, or 3 amp. And where do we plug in the balance port? So on the side here. So yeah, I think that's 2, 3, and 4S, and I'm guessing that it is going to guess which battery you've plugged in by the voltage, or by which one it's plugged in there, because I don't see any option to select 1S, 2S, 3S, or 4S, but yeah, that's a really nice charger, and it charges up to 3 amps, so it should charge the battery pretty quickly. That's what I charge my batteries at normally with my hobby grade charger, so I'd like to see more of this. This is really cool. So what else do you get with it? Well, we have these 3-leaf propellers, which look quite nice. What are they? I think they are 5045. Yep, 5045. So nice 3-blade propellers, and also 2-blade propellers. So you've got the option there, and of course this does take a 5-inch propeller, which is nice. What else have we got? So I'm not going to take all this out, but you are given cable ties. Now, I think those are going to be for the ESCs, because they are just stuck down with this double-sided sticky tape, which is not really a great idea. I can't see them coming off, but actually ESCs can get quite warm, and that can maybe make the adhesive less effective. So I'm going to be putting those on there for sure. What else have you got? So we've got an XT60 for the charger. We've got a load of sticky pads. I'm not sure what you would do with that. And then we are given a rubber ducky antenna, and that is for the VTX at the back. It is RPSMA, which is a shame because I mostly use SMA. And you can see here as well that if you were to use a cloverleaf antenna, it will get in the way of this. So I think I would just remove this. Yeah, and again, shame that it's RPSMA and that it's a rubber ducky antenna, but there you go. I think a lot of people will be switching that out. However, all of my stuff is SMA, so I'm probably going to have to use this for the test flight, and I'm not going to expect great results out of it. But 200 milliwatt VTX should be fine for flying in close. That's all you really need, is 200 milliwatts. So we are given a CD as well. I have to check what's on that, because, yeah, maybe the instructions, because I don't see any instructions with this at all. So onto the transmitter, and as I mentioned, it's the FlySky i6, rebranded as Ideafly. It's in mode 2, so I'm going to be switching this to mode 1. It's quite easy to do. There's just 4 screws on the back of the pots, and you just flip the pots over and invert them, undo the cables, and change it to mode 1 in the settings here. I'm not sure what all of these switches do, but I'll be going into the settings and checking that out. Now, the only problem that I've got with this transmitter is it takes battery, so it's a hobby grade transmitter, except this. I would like to see a LiPo option, but there you go. Now, another great thing with this, and again, everyone making RTFs need to take note of this. This comes with BetaFlight installed on it, which is just fantastic because I can go in and put my stock settings on it that I know work well, and I'm going to get great results out of it. I'm going to check out what they have actually set up with it because I'd be interested to see that. So a couple of negative things with this is that there's no on-screen display and there's no buzzer. So I'm going to have to use one of my voltage checkers on the battery. That just plugs into there. It basically just adds a buzzer for you, and it doesn't weigh very much. But I would have liked to have seen a solution to that, because there is a solution to everything else really other than that. One thing that's quite funny as well is this light at the front here. When you throttle up, it starts flashing. So actually it's flashing like this, and then you throttle up and it flashes really quick, which I think is pretty funny. So the next thing that I'm going to do is take the transmitter apart and convert it to mode 1, and then plug this into BetaFlight and see what settings they have used and change anything if I need to. So the first task is to undo these screws here and lift the back off. So next I'm going to remove the backing and watch out for anything that's going to fall out. I'm going to unclip this and also the battery. This is for the trainer port. So yeah, it has a trainer port, this one and that one too. So what we need to do is just undo these 4 screws here and on this side, and that will lift the entire pot out. Unclip this here from there and just swap the wires around. So I will do that. So once all of these screws are out, you will see that both of these pots will lift out, and you have this one cable here. Need to undo this connector here very carefully. Just waggle it out like that. And same with this one. And so what you're going to be doing is inverting the pots. So this one goes over this side and this one goes over this side like that. Okay, those screws are all back in, and now we have a mode 1 configuration. It's time to plug this and this back in. Always remember to plug the battery connector back in. I have done it before where you put all of the screws back in and it won't turn on. It's like, yeah, didn't plug in the battery connector. The trainer port's not so important, but I'm going to plug it in anyway, although I never use it on these FlySky transmitters. And that's it. Pretty simple. Just back together like that. Put the screws back in, and then we have to go into the software on the transmitter and switch it to mode 1. Right, so I've put some batteries in this. Let's turn it on and let's change the stick mode. So you hold down the OK button and go into this system option and scroll down to where it says stick mode, and then just change it up. Oh, you can actually do mode 3 and 4 too, which is cool, but I want mode 1, and then press OK. Okay, and then cancel, and then that should be done. So if we go back up and then into here, mode 1. Excellent. So the next thing to do is to plug it into the computer and see what the settings are on BetaFlight and change anything if I need to. So here we are in BetaFlight. I have got the quadcopter connected to the flight controller via a USB Mini 2 lead, and that is going into the computer. And you can see here that it says COM3. Also, you will need to connect the quadcopter's battery if you want to look at the receiver information. So I have got the battery plugged in. You're going to want to make sure that the props are off when you are doing this. So I'm going to connect to it. The first thing I'm going to do is go into the CLI and check the version. So it's version 2.6 SP Racing F3. So if we go into the setup, the ESCs are just going off there. And if you want to calibrate the accelerometer here, you can. Let's go into ports and see what is set up. Well, that's interesting. Nothing is connected here to the serial RX, and that is because It's using a PWM signal, so it is not needed. Go into configuration here. We've got motor stop switched off, so when it arms, the motors are going to spin up. And let's just have a look here. Minimum throttle value is a little bit high, 1150, and maximum throttle is 1850. So that's going to need to be changed to 2000. And this is probably going to need to come down probably to about 0.8, otherwise the thing will be taking off. So let's try that. So it's got RX parallel PWM selected, which is fine. We've got VBAT enabled, but no buzzer, so that's not going to really do anything. We've got LED strip turned on and black box as well. So I think that is all the settings that I need there. I'm going to test out that throttle in a bit, so save and reboot and see if it does reboot. Oh, it has done by the looks of it. So let's check out PID tuning. So actually, these PIDs aren't too bad. They look like the stock float settings. So yeah, you can see down there. You can see what the quad is doing. That all looks pretty correct. The rate is a bit too low for me. See, so it is set to 0.5. I'm going to bump that up to usually 0.8 or usually 0.7 when I'm testing a new quad. But let's go straight for 0.8 because I think this is going to fly pretty well. And then under the receiver tab, we have got AETR, which is standard for these FlySky transmitters, so that throttle roll. Actually, the throttle only goes to 1977, so I might want to change that. What auxiliary have we got? We've got switch A, which is auxiliary 2. And then we've got a 3-position switch, which is auxiliary 1. So, what was that max throttle again? So, about 1000 to 1977. So, let's go back to here and change that to 1977. To reboot this screen when you do that. Okay, so let's check out the modes now. So we've just got angle mode here, and then on the 3-position switch, which is auxiliary 1, we've got the barometer. I'm not going to use that. I can't see that working out well with a mini quad. And then third one is acro, and we have nothing to arm it, so I'm going to change this. So on the arming range, I'm going to set up that second switch to arm. And then I'm going to just delete barometer, and let's have angle mode, horizon mode, and then acro mode. That's more like my setup. So if I save that now, if I flip that switch, the motor should start going because I've got the battery in. Wow, those motors sound really nice. But the idle does still seem a little bit high. So let's just see where these motors start idling. If I just lift the master up. 1039. As little as 1039. So let's go in and change that idle configuration. So 1039. That motors tab is really good to see where your motors idle at. So save and reboot now. Now I've not got air mode turned on, as I mentioned in previous videos. I've been flying without it, and I've been finding that it's easier to take off and also get your correct idle. So all motors are spinning perfectly now. Let's just have a look at what else they have changed. So we've got this LED indicator here for the different settings. So it seems that when the quad arms, that just changes the LED at the back. Doesn't change any colors when you change flight modes. So I'm guessing that this is also going to make that light flash when you lift the throttle up as well. So that is pretty much it. Let's get the props on and take it for a fly. So you will notice that I am just giving you the FPV footage from the Fat Shark DVR, and that is because no matter how hard I tried, I could not get a action cam to fit to this frame. I used Velcro straps, I even tried cable ties and foam padding, and every time the camera would be loose enough to fall out. Certainly it would be too loose to put on a powerful quadcopter that is capable of pulling a huge amount of G's. So we are stuck with this, and to me this is the biggest downfall of this quadcopter, because for a quadcopter that is more than capable of lifting a HD camera, it's not able to, and you are not able to enjoy the footage back, which is what I like doing most. But anyways, one thing that is cool about this quadcopter is that it is definitely the best ready-to-fly quadcopter that I have received with a good flight setup on the flight controller. Now, this is definitely 100% down to it having BetaFlight installed on it, because Clean Flight with its stock PID settings can be really rough, and don't get me wrong, this isn't perfect at all, and I think it is using the stock BetaFlight settings, but it is so much better than Clean Flight. So another thing that I noticed is that the camera has slight interference on the picture, especially when I throttle up. So that is just a problem with the filter. You see there on the VTX, it's not filtering out the noise from the power system correctly, but it's not really a complete showstopper. And the dynamic range on the camera is pretty good. I have no complaints about that. Unfortunately, the field of view is quite narrow. It's very similar to the HS1177, the very first version that came out. But again, it is completely flyable. I'm managing to fly it. So let's talk about these stock flight characteristics. The roll is definitely completely locked in, but where it is faltering is on the pitch. Now you'll notice I'm doing a lot of rolls and stuff, but you can see there when I flip backwards, it completely loses its footing and it flops over all over the place. And yeah, so the way that I would describe it is the control kind of feels woolly, but just on the pitch, it feels really loose and like it's moving around while you're flying, which is why I'm doing more rolls than flips, because the roll is completely locked in. But I'm sure if I just up the p-value to about 60 and the d to about 55 to 60, then this thing will be as locked in as any of my other quadcopters. And one thing I'm pleased to see about this is those motors have so much power and punch. I'm really pleased about that, because I do plan on building a cheap quadcopter with the Racer Star motors and ESCs in the future. But anyways, there you go. That is my review of the Ideafly Grasshopper F210 from GearBest. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to buy one. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.